All right, guys, welcome to another Parents Portfolio Update where I try to turn $5,000 into as much money as I can for my folks. Been first video this week, been a busy week of work. So I'm going to try to start doing this almost every day, but a little bit behind this week. So also a pretty big drawdown in the market and a lot of the commodities and stocks that I am invested in this portfolio. Um, so let's get into it. Let's see what's going on, what moves I am making, and what I'm seeing in the market. So, um, this is my parents' portfolio right here. So we have, like I said, it's been a pretty big drawdown. Last video I made was, I believe, last Thursday, maybe actually a week ago today, and we were up almost 90%. Now we are up about 56%. So, been a pretty big drawdown, um, and pretty much across the commodities sector. And just to give a little bit of update on the stocks that I invest in, what I'm bullish on, I am very overweight commodities. I'm very heavily invested in gold, silver, the mining companies, uranium, energy. And my goal for growing this portfolio fast is to identify the stocks and the sectors that I like the best and try to get good entry points for those companies. So I, the stocks that I do invest in are very volatile. They're lower cap, mid-sized cap companies, and so they're very they're prone to pullbacks. And so I've been doing this a long time. I'm used to these pullbacks, and so when something like this happens, I I look to add. I look for ideal positions. Ideal times to add to my positions. And as long as the thesis hasn't changed, and it hasn't, and we're, in my opinion, in the middle or really at the beginning of a generational opportunity in commodities. And so, um, again, unless that changes, we're not gonna do anything. There's been a lot of news, and a lot of reason for some of these pullbacks. Gold and silver were on a big run and pulled back. That was going to happen. The good news is, and what you want if you are invested in these mining companies like in the silver and gold industry, is you want the prices to stay elevated. You don't want one giant run and then a sell off back to the historical median, which now if we could stay above $50, or even better where we're at now in that range, I mean, these mining companies are going to start printing. What I think is happening in those sectors is that the market is trying to find out how much staying power high silver prices have. And I believe, for a number of reasons, that they have a lot of staying power. And so I was adding to those positions in my personal portfolio. I don't have any gold and silver in my parents' portfolio. I did make some money off of some call options on CDE, Core Mining. I sold those. We don't have any position as of now. However, on the most recent pullback, we do have a lot of uranium and energy exposure here. We also have some lithium exposure. And, all four of those stocks pulled back. EU pulled back, LEU pulled back, ASPI pulled back, and Standard Lithium pulled back. I had about $500 in cash from those CDE calls I sold. And let's see here. If I could just pull this up, I did add to ASP Isotopes. So that $492 that I had, I added to ASP Isotopes. The reason I did that is because I only had $600 and so in there. This pulled back all the way back to 631 today. That's where it settled at. And this is a stock that I am very bullish on. I think that it is very could possibly triple this year. So it's right at its trend support here. I do believe that this will hold. Um, you know, it's a little bit below it, but I think we have some buying pressure here, and I personally believe this is going to end up going higher. We have a higher high, higher high. We're getting some buying pressure here, long upper wicks. And so, again, the thesis has not changed. This is a company that the financials look very good. There's a ton of potential, and it's needed for the space and energy sectors. So, I think I personally believe it's a great opportunity. So I was adding here Standard Lithium. Let's take a quick look at Standard Lithium. This is one that I added to in my personal portfolio. Again, this is right off of the 100-day moving average. And, we're starting to establish a trend line here. We're getting some buying pressure. And, we might be building support right on this trend line now. So, this pullback in commodity sector and these rare earths, really a big part of what sold it off was this Reuters article, which was saying that the government is not going to implement price floors for a lot of these minerals. But, basically that article has been disputed. It cited a lot of anonymous sources within the Trump organization, the Trump administration. And, since then, there's been just tons of bullish news and announcements from the Trump administration that kind of looks like that's being disputed. And, overall, it appears that the Trump administration is going to be all in on reorienting supply chains and building a critical mineral reserve here in the United States ourselves. So, this is a company that is domestic, lithium company. And so, I think this is just making a new higher low, and eventually we're going to go higher. Encore Energy and Centrus, we'll look at them real quick. Encore Energy, this is to me it's lower risk. I think this probably doubles this year. At the very least, it's moving on up. This one doesn't have as much moving power as some of the other uranium names, but it is in production, early stages of production, and I think it's a good solid company that is a little bit lower risk than some of the other companies. So here's LEU. Again, we're continuing to make higher highs. We have a trend line here. It's right on support, and it's bouncing. So LEU, this is a stock that I am pretty heavily weighted in my personal portfolio, and it is the largest position in this portfolio, except for VG, whose call options continue to go up. So I'm going to get into that in a second, but LEU, oh, sorry, I was looking at CDE. That was the wrong stock, but LEU, same. It's still, we are making higher highs, higher lows. And, I think we're going to continue to go higher. This is trending upward. Nothing has changed in the uranium thesis. And I expect this stock to do very well this year. So, still up 8%, got a really good initial entry point. So I feel good about that stock. That's Encore Energy, actually. Centrus, we're up almost 5%. So we were actually about flat before today. So let's look at these call options very quickly here. VG, again, this is a stock I've been watching closely. It looks like to me, again, this is a stock I'm very excited about, or has a lot of potential. And we did break out of this falling wedge pattern. And I bought these options down here somewhere. We broke out of this falling wedge pattern. And what's exciting about this is there is a gap fill here. And if we could breach this, again, this thing could have a very fast run towards $12.50, $13 area. A lot of short interest on this stock. And right now, to me, it looks like we are bull flagging. And, I hope we can go higher. And I hope we go higher soon, because these options expire 227. So we have some time. We're building support. Honestly, this chart looks excellent. Hopefully we get a move to the upside, and I am going to hang on to these shares. If we do get a big move, this could be a home run option trade I put on for the folks here. New position I opened up last week, Alibaba. Alibaba, this is not off to a good start here. We're down 60% on Alibaba. Let's pull up the Alibaba stock here. So I'm not worried about this. Obviously, I wish I got in at a better entry point. I think we bought it up here, and yeah, definitely I could have waited and got a better entry point. Obviously, in hindsight, that's what I would have done. But, this is a stock that I think looks fantastic. I did great on it last year. I bought the call options right around this area last year. And I actually bought equity in January, sold at the top, and then got back in with call options expiring in December. Did very well with Alibaba last year. So, very similar pattern playing out here, falling wedge, breakout, and now we're grinding on up. The momentum is to the upside. So nothing has changed here. We're just building an uptrend here. And so, we eventually are going to go higher. I think these call options will come in the money, and we'll be okay in the end. They do expire 3/20, so don't have a ton of time. And if I had to do things again, I probably would have pushed these out a little bit further. So we'll see what happens there. May have jumped the gun a little bit there, similar to what I did on OKLO. So listen, I like to take risks. Obviously, I'd like to have this one back, Alibaba, and wait to get in a better entry zone, but we'll see what happens. OKLO, again, this is a stock holding on to. This one's not looking good. Probably going to expire worthless, unfortunately. This is a picture perfect inverted head and shoulders pattern, but the pullback in commodities dragged OKLO down with it. We're trying to reverse here, but given that these options expire February 13th, I think it's most likely not going to come in the money. We'd have to have a huge move in a very short amount of time. So we'll see what happens. If we do get a big move, I'll probably try to roll these options over a little bit. I still think long term, OKLO will resolve itself higher. And, we're pretty far off the all-time highs of 193. Let's see here. Yeah, opened, tagged 193 midday, and then ultimately pulled back to 171 at close that day. And that was the start of the reversal and the downtrend. We broke out of that downtrend, and again, inverse head and shoulders, now a double bottom. So we'll see what happens. Again, I like it long term, but I think that I just didn't leave enough time here, and I just jumped the gun a little bit early on OKLO. So hopefully Baba can turn things around a little bit here. But again, may have pulled the trigger a little bit soon on Baba as well. But again, the good news is, I am trying to leverage this. I want to grow it. Ideally by September, my parents are paying for a wedding for my brother and sister, and I'd like to help them out as much as I can. So we'll see what happens. That's what I got for today. In the parents' portfolio. Overall, broader markets, I have been buying the dip on these commodities. I bought some gold and silver stocks, and I feel good. I am rotating out of my tech positions. Tomorrow, I'm going to be making some sales. I'm also trying to unload some of my crypto. I'm pretty bearish on crypto. I have been bearish for a while. I'll pull up the Bitcoin chart real quick. I thought that Bitcoin, at least what I was hoping for, was a little bit more of a bear flag. I do think this is a head and shoulders pattern forming. I just didn't think this right shoulder would be as weak as it was. So, ultimately, what I would love to see is for Bitcoin to come back and retest. Well, 82,000 would be fine, but at the very, what would be great if it could somehow retest this $86,000 level. But I think ultimately we're gonna head a lot lower on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the entire crypto space as well. So we'll see what happens. Again, that's kind of how I feel about the markets right now. I am selling out of tech. I am gonna beef up some of my positions in oil and energy. I just think, and maybe copper as well. So I might do, I'm going to make some moves tomorrow. I will maybe make a video tomorrow on some of the moves that I did make and my thought process behind them. But that's what I got for today. I'm going to end it there. Appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.